Chapter 4. I quivered as I stood near Malik, my whole body aching to throw my arms around him and feel him against me. "Hi," he said, giving me a smile that melted me inside. "When did you get back?" Iblis asked. I sat down and scooted over so he could sit between me and Dara. His wings brushed mine as he climbed over the bench, the physical touch sending a shiver of pleasure down my spine. I doubted he noticed. "Just now," he said, taking the rest of Dara's strawberry. "You thieves," she said, standing up. "I'll just have to get some more." "Get some for me too, will you?" Iblis said, and we laughed. She turned back to Malik. "I just got back also. I got a notice that opening ceremonies are in 3 days." She flashed me a guilty look. I guess I lost track of time. "You abandoned me all summer," I said, pretending to be faking my hurt. "Both of you did." "I'll be gone a lot this year," Malik said, looking at me. "But it will go by. It's 1 year." "I'm back now," Iblis said. "We're roommates. You'll be so sick of me by the time we graduate from the academy." "Skyball tryouts," Grigory, another third year and Malik's friend, said, joining us. "They're in 5 days. Thinking of trying out?" Malik asked him. "Maybe. I'm a fast flyer. Not so great with hand-eye coordination." Iblis' gaze latched on Grigory. "I think I'll try out for the team next year. I loved sports when I was alive." "I bet you make it too. Seems like you're good at everything you try." "Iblis, you didn't tell me you were coming back today." Jeremiel walked by with his empty tray. He promptly put it on the table and sat down across from me, beside Iblis. "Jeremiel," she reached over and hugged him, then pulled away. "I didn't know I was coming back until a little bit ago." Malik bent his head toward me. "Let's go to the garden," he said. I nodded, as eager to leave the two of them alone as to be alone with Malik. We walked to the other end of the cafeteria, then I pushed the door open and stepped into the blooming garden. "Smells like rain," I said. "Rain often comes before the beginning of fall." I felt his hands on my wings running along the arches, caressing the soft down of the feathers. I turned around, my wings slipping from his fingers as I did so. The seasons continued to amaze me. Malik raised an eyebrow. "The earth is pretty amazing." His eyes studied me, and the yearning I saw swirling in their depths made me shiver. "That's true," I agreed. "How was it? Did you learn how to use your gifts? How does it feel to be a git?" "I missed you," he said. Of all the words I'd expected to come from his lips, those were the last. Everything he'd been doing, being on Earth, shadowing humanity, getting to use his training as a guardian, and the first thing he said was that he missed me. I put my hands out as if to press them against his chest, and he met my palms with his own. We didn't touch, but our auras swirled together, creating a heady elixir of desire and contentment within me. My insides warmed, and Malik's light grew, throwing a radiant shield around us. "Oh," I said softly, my heart skidded, giddiness bubbling up inside me. Malik gave a crooked smile and dropped his hands. The shield receded, but the joy in my heart did not. I felt as if I carried a bit of his light in my chest still. "It's interesting looking on Earth life from the outside," Malik said. He moved to one of the stone benches with several overhanging tree branches, and I joined him. "I traveled with my mentor." "You had a mentor?" I interrupted. "Yeah, just a 4th year. We get real GMs when we have an official assignment." "GM. Or Guardian Mentor. They've already graduated from the academy." "Oh, GM made sense." "We went to several different places on Earth. My light, Jez, it's a great gift. I can heal people from physical maladies, but I can also help them with spiritual wounds. Azriel said I'm one of the strongest gits he's ever met." "Azriel? My mentor?" "Well, of course," I tilted my head at him. "I could have told you that. You are a noble and great soul." He buried his face against my wing, his breath hot on my feathers. "I'm keeping you, just so you know." I laughed and hoped he meant it. CD. The entire student body gathered in the auditorium the next day. We wore our uniforms, and I sat between Iblis and Arella with the other second-year students. The first years crowded into the front of the auditorium, looking ill and confused. I turned to Iblis. "When did you die?" "What do you mean?" I mean, what month? The academy year starts at the equivalent of Earth's September, right? Iblis nodded. I think so. I haven't checked to see if Arcadia follows the Gregorian calendar, she smirked. But what month did you die? She thought about it a moment. It was March. I nodded. And what did you do during that time? From March until school started in September. I was in a house. It felt like a hospital, but not quite. Me too, Arella said, tossing her dark hair behind one shoulder. I couldn't remember anything. Not who I was or how I died or how I got there. Same, Iblis said. Then the memories started to come back to me. I thought I was in a house recuperating. I thought I'd see my family soon. Until eventually the woman there told me I was in Gehenna, that I'd died and wouldn't be going home. Instead, I'd be going to a school to learn how to be a guardian angel. Arella nodded. Pretty much exactly how it happened for me. I looked back and forth between the two of them. Were you there together? No, Arella said. I was by myself with this nice lady. Interesting. I settled back as I considered that information, studying the first years who sat quietly and timidly up front. I hadn't considered how it was for them the year prior when I was also a confused and alone first year. They had just discovered they were dead and couldn't go home. They were in a place they had never heard of. I thought it had been hard for me. It must have been so much worse for them. Master Sellafiel stood on the stage, her golden wings in full splendor as she smiled down at everyone. Welcome to another year at Guardian Angel Academy, students. Cheers rang out in the auditorium, and I listened with interest. I'd arrived near the end of the ceremony last year and sat in the back with Barachel, feeling conspicuous and out of place. We especially welcome our first-year students. We look forward to making you feel at home here at the Academy. Now, to announce our new dorm leaders. For those of you who don't know, our levels are broken into two groups: Guardian Apprentices and Guardians in Training. First and second years are GAS, and we have a dorm leader over each dorm. Third and fourth years are GITS, and they also have their own dorm leaders. There were 3 dorms on campus, Hest, Aleph, and Emet, each one housing boys on one side and girls on the other. As dorm mates, we had our classes together and ate our meals together. Iblis and I were in the Aleph dorm. Dorm leaders, when I call your name, please come to the stage so your dorm can recognize you. First years, never fear. When you're assigned to a campus and a dorm, you will meet your dorm leader. For the Emet dorm over the GAS is Ophaniel. The Emet students cheered, and a black-haired boy with white wings stood up and made his way to the stage. For the Aleph dorm over GAS is Iblis. Iblis. I swiveled to my roommate. Malik is not our dorm leader anymore. I don't know, I guess not. She pushed out of the chair and made her way to the stage, where we clapped our approval. I clapped along, my mind scurrying to put the pieces together. So Malik had been announced dorm leader only days before I met him. What a surprise it must have been to him, since he'd repeated his first year 3 times. Iblis was dorm leader. That would take getting used to. I didn't listen as the leaders for Hes were called, but leaned close to Iblis when she returned. Did you have any idea? I asked. None. Her agenda beeped, and she pulled it from her bag. We carried them with us always, as besides having our daily schedule, they were communication devices between angels. She opened the agenda, and a list scrolled across the screen. What is it? I asked. A list of second-year students in our dorm. I fell silent as Sellafiel resumed talking, but the moment we stepped outside, our dorm mates pounced on Iblis. Did you know? Dara exclaimed. Iblis shook her head, her cheeks pink. I had no idea. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Tutor the difficult first years, I teased. Congratulations, Iblis. Grigori, a third-year student, said, coming over and offering his hand. Elder Master Barachil doesn't make mistakes when choosing dorm leads. Her face flushed red. Thanks. Malik joined us, sliding a hand up my wing in a way that felt both intimate and gentle. My face warmed and I tilted my head to see him without shifting my position. You'll do great, Iblis, he said, smiling at her, all without removing his hand. His fingers stroked my quills, connecting with the fragile skin that held the feathers in place. Little shivers of delight whispered over my shoulders. I don't even know, she said, looking rather flustered. What am I supposed to do? Elder Master Barachil will help you. You'll attend TLG with the first years, help them see you as an ally and an advocate. The whole I've been through what you're going through kind of thing. And then if there are any students that need special attention. He smiled and his fingers wove through my feathers. You'll be there to provide it. Finally he faced me, the electric current of his touch sliding away as he dropped his hand. Grigori turned his gaze to include us. We're heading to the greenhouse to watch the manifestations. Want to come? I've seen it enough times, Malik said. But go on, don't miss the fun. He moved away from the group and found a seat along the fountain. I followed. What are the manifestations? I asked. Remember when you first arrived and were told you were an empatia? I nodded. Those were the manifestations. Technically older years aren't allowed into the manifestation hall, but we tend to crowd around the greenhouse and get a sneak peek. You can go if you want. I'll go where you go, I said. He traced the back of his finger around the edges of my cheek, my aura tingling where his brushed me. Classes start in a few days, he said. I'll be here for most of the first term, but as a third year we go to Earth frequently on ministering missions while we wait to receive our full-time assignment. How will I know what to do without you? My heart beat a little faster, knowing Malik might not be around to guide me. He gave a small smile. You're not a lost little angel anymore, Jez. This is your campus. You know the buildings, the masters. Check your schedule. It will be updated. You can read now, so you'll be fine. He shifted his gaze, his eyes narrowing on something across the courtyard. He's always watching you. I knew without looking that it would be Karubiel. But I turned anyway and shrugged when I saw him lingering by the cafeteria, his shadow mingling with the red and orange of his aura. He rubs me wrong, Jez, Malik said. I rolled my eyes, not wanting to admit to Malik that Karubiel rubbed me wrong also. He's harmless. He didn't even move on to second year. He's a shadow shade. He said it with such finality. It's not like you to be so judgmental, I said, trying to sound teasing. You don't know enough yet. He leaned toward me and brushed his cheek near mine. I'll say goodbye anytime I have to leave, and I'll come see you whenever I'm here. I swallowed, not liking how the thought of being away from him left a hollowness in my chest. What does it mean? Why do I feel like I can't exist without you? Oh, Jez, he laughed and then sighed. I wouldn't have known it was possible. My throat tightened. That you could have feelings for me. That you could have feelings for me. Now I smiled. Me, neither, I admitted. But I like these feelings most of the time. They often left me feeling more vulnerable than I cared to admit. But somehow that vulnerability left an open space in my heart, and I was very willing to let Malik fill it. CD. DI. My classes were different now that I was full-fledged second year. When I'd been a first year, I'd been on a different track, since I'd come from Sheol with no education. Malik tutored me in reading and in the ways of humans, which I understood from a very warped, twisted point of view. I'd also fought hard against the fact that Hasadin broke away from Shemayim and then waged war on it, wanting to believe the lie I'd been told my entire existence that heaven turned against us and cast us out into Sheol, cursing us with unhappiness and the inability to touch. As with all his stories, there was a grain of truth in what Hasadin taught me, but most of it was a lie. This year my classes were the same as my fellow second years, so I walked with Eblis, Dara, and Jeremiel after breakfast to our history class. Welcome back to school, class, Master Remiel said, smiling down on us like a doting parent. This year, instead of studying ancient history, we're going to be studying the prophecies. The prophecies. This piqued my interest. It was something I'd been wanting to learn about since last year. Prophecies have been around since the beginning of time. What is a prophecy? Zophiel, who had been in my remedial history class the year before, raised her hand. I was pleased to see she'd also moved up to second year. A prophecy is like fortune-telling, right? Divining the future. Very similar, Remiel nodded and wrote on the board, divining the future. But while fortune-telling is usually for one person or an individual, prophecies usually, though not always, involve a group of people. Why? Vanina asked. Why indeed? Why would the Father have someone spout off prophecies to the people of Earth? Well, that's obvious, Dara said, because when we were born we forgot everything that happened in Shemayim, and some things were so important he wanted to make sure we didn't miss them. That still doesn't make sense, Israfil said. If it's going to happen anyway, what does it matter if people know about it ahead of time? Excellent question, Ramil said, and I could tell he enjoyed this. We were teaching each other. What's the point? The class fell silent for a moment, and then Vanina said, so we could prepare. That's a good reason, Ramil waited. Jaramil spoke up. Because the father wanted to prove he's real. I nodded. That made sense. But why? Why would he need to prove he's real? Ramil spread his hands. How many of you knew the father existed when you were alive? I glanced around at my classmates. Several raised their hands. I called him by a different name, but I knew he was real, Daniel said. Me too, Vanina admitted. Did you live your life in preparation of seeing him again someday? No, Vanina said, her face turning pink. I didn't think about him at all. And yet, you've lived your whole life seeing the fulfillments of ancient prophecies. Why hasn't that proof changed your life? I didn't believe in them, Vanina said. If I saw them, I didn't know what I saw. Just because you know something's real doesn't mean you follow it, I said. Ah, yes. Jez hit it on the head. So, think deep, students. If the prophecies are not meant to prove the Father's existence, and they are going to happen whether someone foretells them or not, what is the purpose? They might have different purposes, Daniel said. I learned that prophecies were a way for God to call people to repentance, to give them a second chance to do the right thing. It might strike them with fear when they see it happen. But a prophecy might also be a reward to a believer. When they see the thing they've believed in with faith their whole lives happening, it's like validation. I like that. Ramil turned to the board and wrote validation. Beside it, he also wrote repentance. He turned to face us again. I think you're right on all counts. Now, let's take a look at an early prophecy recorded in the Word. The whiteboard behind him changed, and a sentence appeared in glowing blue letters. I held my breath. The last time I tried to read from the Word, my chains had caught fire. I had changed since then. But was there enough light in me now to read from it? Chapter 5. Master Ramil began to read the words on the board. On that day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, to your descendants I give this land, from the river of Egypt to the great river, the river Euphrates. And nothing happened. No burning in my arms, no fire. I slowly let out my breath. I really wasn't bound anymore. I could study the holy word without feeling the burn of impurity. Let's analyze this. Ramil waved his hand, and the words moved to the side of the board. Who did the action here? The Lord, Arella said. To who? Abram, Daniel said. And what did the Lord do? Made a promise, Zophiel said. A promise? Yes, a promise, Ramil, wrote her words down. He promised something to Abram. What? The land, I said. All of it, from one river to another river. I wrote this promise down. We fell silent. Was it Abram? He was the one who heard it. Moses. And how did Moses know? Because Abram told his children, and they told their children, and they told their children. Exactly. Why would he do that? Daniel struggled for a moment, then said, so that no one would forget all of that land would someday belong to them. Very good. Now, here is the big question. If this prophecy were to come true, what would it mean? Silence reigned while we considered the intricate question. It would mean the Lord fulfilled his promise, Iblis said. And Abram would have what? Lots of land, Leke said, and we laughed. Ramil smiled also. And if it were to not come true? The class fell dead quiet. Israfil furrowed his brow. If the Lord doesn't keep his promises? Or maybe that Abram didn't keep his, Dara said. Well, that we don't understand what the prophecy means, Arella said. Did it come true? Vanina asked. Ramil looked at Daniel. I looked at him too. Surprised, Ramil would turn to a student for the answer. I believe so, yes, Daniel said. During the time of King David, the empire spread from the Euphrates to the Nile, and the inhabitants were the descendants of Abram. Ramil beamed at him. You remember your learning well. He looked out at us. According to some, this prophecy was fulfilled. Others, however, say it was not. Still others say that it's not fulfilled today, so the Lord reneged on his covenant. So here's the thing. Prophecies are amazing. They are miraculous and insightful, but they are also tricky. There are always at least two ways to interpret them, literally and figuratively. Because of this, they lead men into folly and confusion. Someone expecting a literal fulfillment will feel let down if they don't perceive it to occur, while the figurative fulfillment might evade our notice completely if we never understood the prophecy. Not even as angels do we always understand. He put his pen down and wiped his hands together. Here is your homework. Find a prophecy, any prophecy from any religious creed or person, and analyze what it says and what you think it means. Then tell me if you think it was fulfilled and give me evidence to support your opinion. Class dismissed. I stood up, closing my book and heading for the classroom door. Jez, wait up. Bliss hurried after me, and I slowed my steps for her. In a hurry to eat lunch? She teased. We have nearly an hour until lunchtime, I said. We both had astronomy class after Shema, which meant we had an empty class time before lunch. I thought I'd go to the library and get started on the homework. She pulled back and stared me, an eyebrow arching in surprise. You're that interested in getting it done? It's a very interesting topic. Iblis. Jerahmeel caught up to us, looping his finger through the waistline of her skirt, a gesture which did not go unnoticed. A couple of us are going out to the skyball pitch. Want to come? How are we doing out there? Practicing flying, he grinned mischievously. Students were not allowed to fly on campus except for one place, the skyball pitch, and I'd never done any practicing since I hadn't had wings until a few months ago. She looked from him to me, chewing on her lower lip. That sounds way more fun than following me to the library, I said. I'll see you at lunch. She smiled. Okay, see you. She hurried after him. I felt a splash of envy, but not because I wanted to be running along with her and Jerahmeel, only because Jerahmeel could so casually touch her. I wanted desperately to believe if I had existed before the First War, I would have been a light lid. But perhaps it was better, I never know. I found the book I was looking for in the library right away, a big thick book full of prophecies regarding several of the prominent religions on Earth. I bounced with excitement in my chair because last year I hadn't been capable of reading it. The prophecies were a well-kept secret, one I knew Hasatan would give his right hand to get a hold of. He wanted to know what was expected to happen, especially as he prepared to launch his new rule. Of course he knew some of them. Some of the prophecies were rumored around Shamayim before the First War, before Hasatan was banished to Sheol. I was only here because of a prophecy, one that led him to believe I would provide him an access point to Shamayim and bring about the new rule. My mind cast back to the dagger I'd stolen from the academy, the one I'd given him, and I could only pray I had not already fulfilled that prophecy. I flipped to the back of the book. I figured the majority of my classmates would also use this book and they would start in the beginning, so I went to the end. I scanned the verses of the first page I turned to, pausing at the bottom. The mystery of the 7 stars which thou sawest in my right hand, and the 7 golden candlesticks. The 7 stars are the angels of the 7 churches, and the 7 candlesticks which thou sawest are the 7 churches. This was intriguing, a mystery. 7 stars and 7 candlesticks, each representing something different. 7 angels and 7 churches. Which angels? Maybe it meant the archangels from the firstwar.org? I thought back to my history class the previous year. In one of the classes, we'd discussed the captains of the armies, and Master Remiel made us write a paper on them and their role. I remembered what stuck out the most to me was Elder Master Barakiel. He'd been an amazing leader, and here he was at the academy, raising up the next generation of guardians. Of soldiers. I settled back in my chair, thoughts of the verse forgotten as I mulled over my new hypothesis. Barakiel was an excellent teacher, but he was also a warrior, a leader, a general. Who were the other captains in the war? I opened my agenda and started a new page. At the top I wrote, Archangels/Captains of the First War. Beneath I wrote, 1. Barakiel. Then, 2. Salafiel, another general who was also here at the academy. Were all of them here, guiding us and teaching us? I considered my instructors, but as far as I knew, only Barakiel and Salafiel had the golden wings of an archangel. Interesting. If the 7 stars represented the 7 archangels of the First War, 2 of them were here at the Academy. Did the other 2 campuses, Zion and Sinai, also have 2 archangels? I knew there was a purpose for it. Who were the other 5? I racked my brain, trying to remember. There was Michael, of course, the greatest general of all, and Uriel, who the armory was named after. I could not think of the other 3. Maybe I was wrong, and the 7 angels were not the archangels who captained the war. Or maybe the 7th angel was the favored one himself. Not the favored one, I chastised myself. I couldn't refer to him in terms that I'd used in Sheol. Here he had 100 different names, but most of the angels referred to him as the first emissary, not because he was the first being created by the Father, but because he made it his life's mission to set the example for humanity. And the 7 churches. If this was literal, it could mean the early churches in the land, but if it was figurative, 7 churches could represent something else entirely, which meant the candlesticks could stand for churches, which could stand for countries, continents, religions. I had enough to write my paper on the 7 stars, even if I couldn't say for sure what the prophecy meant. I analyzed the beginning as Master Remiel had requested. I concluded, with supporting evidence, that the prophecy had already been fulfilled in the construction of religious buildings across the face of the earth. Of course, I wrote at the end, that is only if we are interpreting this from a more literal point of view. If figurative, then this prophecy becomes an algebraic expression with missing variables, and we can't imagine the outcome without those variables. I settled back, satisfied with my paper. But my thirst to understand the ancient prophecies wasn't nearly satiated. The bliss found me before I could dive in deeper. "It's time for lunch," she said, grasping one of my feathers and giving it a tug. My friends touched me all the time now. It made me realize how tactile living beings were. Touch connected us, created bonds between us. Even if it was just my wings, I was glad I could be a part of that. "I finished my paper anyway," I said. "Look at you, becoming quite the scholar. Who would have guessed?" "This is interesting," I said. "I'm not a scholar." "Maybe you would have been if you'd gone to Earth." "We'd never know." She waited while I put the book away, and then we walked out together. "Was it fun at the pitch?" I asked. I couldn't stay. Turns out one of the first years needs help with basic math, so I spent my time at the math lab helping. "They'll catch on quickly. Math is easier than reading." "I don't have any first years that can't read," Iblis said. "After lunch, I have lessons in flying at the skyball pitch. I'm super excited about that." "Flying lessons, do you?" I pulled out my schedule and checked what I had next. "Hey, me too." "Of course, we'll have most classes together." I wasn't sure. I'm still trying to figure out how to control these things. I glanced over my shoulder at my wings, not surprised to see them fluttering with a mind of their own. "You'll catch up soon enough." I forgot about flying when Malik entered the cafeteria. As always, he took my breath away with a force that was almost painful. How had I survived summer without him? The 3rd and 4th years sat at a separate table than the Giites, but Malik greeted his friends with hugs and hand touches before returning to table D, where us lowly 1st and 2nd years sat. "Hi," he said, his lips nearly grazing my cheek as he bent his head close to mine. I scooted over to make a spot for him. "Hi," I replied, folding my hands together to keep from trying to touch him. While he could stroke my feathers, I could not return the gesture, and it was killing me. How was your first day?" He stabbed a glob of what looked like tofu and glanced over at me. "You're not eating." "My next class is flying," I confessed. "I'm super excited and nervous." "I remember that class. You'll do great." His eyes wandered up to the height of my wings and back to my face. "You'll love what those can do for you." I smiled my appreciation. Master Remiel doesn't waste any time. He already gave us homework, and I already finished it. "I told you you're smart." "How was your day?" He was still here, so he must not have an assignment yet. I felt selfish for hoping he didn't receive one for months. "Fascinating. I had my first dance class." He laughed at my scowl. "I'll teach you." I turned away. He'd never be able to hold me like he could his... He poked my thigh with his fork, making me look at him again. "You're silly. You're everything I want, just like you are." I didn't understand how he could be satisfied with the status quo when I was so dissatisfied with it. He'd experienced life already, with the ability to touch. I must seem so inadequate, but I let it drop. Any mention of when you might leave? No. He shook his head. They did say, as third years were at their beck and call, anytime a need for a ministering angel pops up, which is frequently, one of us is likely to go as a trainee. Part of the fun of being It did sound fun. I imagined it for my own third year, what it must be like. But you won't leave without telling me? I promise. Jazz. I looked over at Iblis and Jeremiel. I'm heading to the pitch for class, Iblis said. Want to come? I turned back to Malik as my classmates gathered their things up. Time to fly. Good luck. Master Sabriel waited for us on the green field. I'd sensed her attitude toward me changing over the summer every time I stepped into the greenhouse and cared for the plants, and I knew she'd be kind to me. Welcome to Lessons in Flying, second years, she said, her face creasing into a smile. Ooh, Leke shouted. I know you're ready to take to the skies and make good use of those glorious wings you received when you died. But first, we have to work on a few basic skills. This met with groans and murmurs, and she lifted a hand. Many of you have these skills already, but we're going to hone them. The slight difference in the shape of your wings during flight makes the difference in your landing, your speed, and your trajectory. But you can't make that difference if you haven't learned to control your wings. So let's master our wings first. No flying today? Arella asked. Sabriel shook her head. No flying today. The groans repeated themselves, and she chuckled. Not to worry, angelings, you'll be flying soon enough. Now, spread out in a row in front of me. Give each other enough space that your wings won't touch the person next to you. We moved down the field, glancing from left to right to make sure we weren't too close to each other. Now spread those wings as far as they will go. Spread, I told my wings, envisioning them as if they were another pair of arms and I wanted to hold them out wide. I felt them tremble and fluff a bit in response, but they didn't open. Was I the only one having trouble? Master Sabriel stopped in front of Israfil, her voice too soft to overhear as she spoke with him. He had managed to get one wing open, but the other didn't want to go. That was still better than me. I concentrated, trying to tuck the wings in behind my body, and then urging them to open wide. For one magnificent moment, they opened, and then they flapped together twice, nearly lifting me from the ground, before closing again behind my shoulder blades. Heaven's throne, did they have a mind of their own? You're all right, Jez, Master Sabriel said, pausing in front of me. She wore a slight smile on her face. It takes a while to feel the connection between them and your body. Just like you summon your soul's energy up from your core, find the energy stored in your wings. Search for that before you try to move them. I'll be back. She continued down the row, checking out the wingspan of the other angels and encouraging those who hadn't succeeded yet. Once you've opened your wings to their full spread, you can close them, Sabriel called down the row. Take a break while we wait for everyone to accomplish this task. Come on, wings, I murmured. I didn't want to be left behind. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, holding it while I searched for the orange, shimmering energy I'd come to recognize in the rest of my body. I gasped when I found it as I was nearly swept away in a vibrant current of life. A river of energy pulsed between my wings, crossing through my body only to re-enter the other wing. I did not move, I did not breathe, I was in awe by what I beheld. No wonder the other angels could touch my wings. They held more life and energy in one feather than in my entire soul. It was magnificent and humbling. I was nothing compared to them. I opened my eyes and looked out across the skyball field, tethering the rapid flow of energy to my inner core. Holding tight to the end of the tether, I urged the wings to open. Chapter 6. My wings opened, hesitantly, almost as if they weren't sure if they should obey my commands. Now close, I thought. They responded a little better this time, closing upon command. I laughed. It was working. I didn't have to concentrate so hard the next time, but got the wings to open and close when I wanted them to. Stretch, I thought, willing them to open to their full capacity. They did. I checked out my classmates while holding my wings spread, wishing I could see their wingspan. Most everyone had already tucked their wings away, waiting for the next instruction. Good job, Jez, Master Sabriel said, returning to me. I knew you could do it. She had? She had that faith in me? My heart warmed as my wings dipped, feeling the strain of being held open for so long. I closed them, reveling in the fact that I could do that. As you can see, Sabriel said, addressing the class again, once you've learned how to control your wings, it becomes second nature. Soon, it will be as easy as waving a hand or wiggling a toe. Now, stretch forth your right wing only and dip it toward the ground like so. She demonstrated, the white wing coming out from behind her shoulder and turning downward. The rest of us copied, and she went along checking our positioning. This is a diving position, she said. Your ability to switch positions quickly will indicate how fast of a flyer you are. And if you want to play skyball for me next year, her eyes twinkled. Not only do you need to be a fast flyer, but you need to be able to turn on a dime and dive immediately also. The rest of the class went in the same manner, and I was jazzed by the time we left. We didn't get to fly, Jeremiel complained. He walked near enough to Iblis that their shoulders bumped from time to time. But we're learning to use our wings, I said. I fluttered them just to show I could. They're a part of us. We decide what they're going to do. He and Iblis exchanged a smile as if they thought I was funny. We could have taken this class last year, Leke said behind us, moving upward to be closer. We'd be ready to fly now if we had. It's the rush, Iblis said. We've got an eternity. Truth, Liake said. Jeremiel kept quiet, and I wondered what went through his head. Was he thinking about his planned sacrifice? He wouldn't have an eternity if he continued down his proposed path. As soon as he made his decision to return to Earth, he would have to stay in the lesser realms. His learning would be over. The thought saddened me. I glanced at Iblis, wondering if she knew. She alone might be able to change his mind. I had creations class after flying lessons, and Master Sabriel looked calm and collected in a brown tunic and beige pants, even though I'd just seen her at the skyball pitch, breathless and energetic. She nodded at us as we gathered in the greenhouse. I saw most of you over the summer, she said, and you've improved immensely when it comes to your creation skills. You're familiar with the rows of dirt. Today, I'm going to assign you your own plat. Then we'll make a plan for what you want to grow this semester. I waited my turn until she guided me to a large section of dirt at the end of the third row. Get to know your dirt, she said. A year ago, that sentence would have meant nothing to me. Now I knew what she meant. I knelt down and buried my fingers in the dirt, using my essence to analyze the components of the soil as I'd been taught. Master Sabriel walked among us, instructing us. Determine what type of soil you have, alkaline or acidic. It will make a difference when you pick your seedlings. My soil was acidic, but it was nutrient-rich. Once you've determined your dirt, plan out what you want to grow. Picture your garden. You can get inspiration from the seed bins. I would need it. Gardening was something I had no experience with. Master Sabriel found me at the seed bins, sorting through them, trying to pick something. Do you know what you want? She asked me. I shook my head. I have no idea. Try this one. She took a small round seed and placed it in front of me. Willing and Widada, what is it? I asked, staring at it. It's a surprise. Try it and see. She gave me a smile and I returned it. Then I plucked up the tiny seed. I liked creating. CD. 3 days into the school year, Master Sabriel released the names of those who had made the skyball team. I had no part in this, but I felt an odd anticipation as I pulled the list up on my agenda and scanned the names. Only 6 people had made the team. I didn't recognize any of them. You didn't make it, I said to Grigori at dinner. I glanced to the seat on his left, where Malik usually sat. Where had he gotten off to? It's all right, he said with a shrug. Must be I'm just meant to do something else. But I've seen you fly, Iblis said. Her hand closed around Jeremiel's under the table. You're crazy fast. I guess I just wasn't so good at throwing the ball, Grigori said. I studied his aura, trying to read the emotions. Are you sad? It's really okay, he said. Now I can sit back and enjoy the games without worrying about them. I kind of thought everyone would succeed at anything they tried, Daniel said, since it's heaven and all. This isn't heaven, Iblis said, giving us the reminder we didn't need. And everyone can't win every time anywhere. That would make the victory pretty pointless. True, Grigori said. Who would watch the games if we were all playing? There are still losers in heaven, Jeremiel said, eyeing the bottom of his empty glass. Interesting to think about. I stood to put my tray away and was returning to my table when Malik stepped into the cafeteria. Jez, he called. He caught up to me and slipped his hand around one wing, then tugged me out of the cafeteria. What is it? I asked. Though I saw him daily, we didn't have any classes or tutoring sessions together, and I missed our frequent interaction. I'm leaving, he said. Ready? School hasn't been in session for a week. You've already got your assignment? Not my official one. No, it's another ministering assignment. Elder Master Barakiel said they try not to take third years away too often, but because I'm a shade of light. He paused, and I finished. They need you more. He nodded. It might not be long. Maybe a day or two? But it could be long, I said. It could, he admitted. His golden brown eyes studied me, asking if I'd be all right. I'll be fine, I said. Of course you will be. He gripped the edges of both my wings and squeezed them gently. I'll see you soon. It will only feel like a moment that I'm gone. It didn't feel that way last time, I grumbled, but he didn't respond. His eyes were on the quad, where an angel I didn't recognize stood with his hands clasped in front of him. Georgium? I asked. Yes, Raphael, I'll see you later, Jez. He let go and trotted off, and I was left standing alone. They synergized to make a portal and then stepped through without a backward glance. Back to Earth he goes, a male voice said at my shoulder. I didn't turn, didn't acknowledge him. Doesn't he know how dangerous it is to leave you alone? Doesn't he know what you're capable of without his calming presence? The darkness of Kerubiel's shadow lengthened, spreading out around me and the patch of concrete I stood on. What had once brought me comfort and relief sent a shiver of revulsion down my spine now. I turned and crossed my arms over my chest, facing him. Do you keep taunting me? I'm not taunting you. He narrowed his eyes. I'm just waiting for you to acknowledge your true self, who you are. I know who I am, I retorted, and I know who I choose to be. Then who is that? He threw his hand out, a gesture of indignation, and his fingers grazed the bony ridge of my wing. I sucked in a breath as something inside me ignited at his touch and spread out over my feathers. He froze, his eyes on my wing, and then they darted to me. Did that hurt you? I shook my head, unable to find any words. Why had his touch affected me that way? He reached his fingers forward and stroked the soft down of my feathers. I jerked away, angered by the flush of pleasure that shivered through me. I can touch you. He looked at me. Did you know this? I nodded. My wings have more light than the rest of me. Celestial beings can touch them. He shifted closer, and I backed away, suddenly frightened. Don't come near me, I said, my fear shooting into my voice. He paused in his approach, examined me, and drew back. His expression changed, the haughtiness returning to his gaze. You're like me, Jezbara-Sat, and I'll be here waiting for you when you realize you can't change who you are. He turned and sauntered away, and I glared after him, hating that he had such an affect on me. Why did his words always leave me with such doubt? He would have made a great temptere. CD. My days fell into the same routine of classes I remembered from the previous year, with one big difference. I didn't feel separate from my classmates. I was one of them, and I felt that way. We're going to be doing something slightly different today, Master Barakiel said when we arrived at the Fields of Synergy behind the quad in the middle of the following week. Now that you've learned how to summon your energy, we're going to learn a practical use for it, opening a window. We had a full crowd as the second years from Chesed were in this class also. I felt a little guilty for how relieved I was that Kerubiel hadn't moved up. The first years were elsewhere, learning something basic. I doubted it would help him. The shadow shade was too far gone. Since, as second years, you're at liberty to open windows and view your loved ones on Earth whenever you like, it's time for you to learn how to do so. This I needed to know. Not that I had any loved ones on Earth ... but I had Malik, and my soul missed him. Note of caution, angels, Barakiel said, clasping his hands behind his back and giving us a penetrating stare. You're not mortal anymore, and your life does not revolve around Earth life or the inhabitants thereof. Do not give in to the temptation to spend all of your hours peering backward and watching the state of life for those left behind. Remember, they will one day join you. Instead, check up on them from time to time. Notice if they have needs you can help with, because you can. Heaven has always sent help to mortals in need, and you're part of the army of eyes and ears to make sure they are cared for. Right now, you're developing that skill for people who you love. When you move up to third year, you will transfer that same skill to those you've never met. So it's important to begin to exercise your feelings of charity, love, and mercy for mankind. Now let's get started. Before you can open a window, you have to think of what you want to see, who you want to see, but it's also important that your desire doesn't stem from selfish wants, but a genuine concern for their well-being. The first few steps were as Malik had told me, and they came intuitively. I pulled the energy up from my core, and then pulled more from the living energy particles around me. In Shoal, I didn't have an innate power source of my own. Any energy I needed had to come from someone else, which was why I'd spent so much time on Earth as a Temptar, stealing life and energy from mortals. While we could take from anything alive, the essence of humanity lasted the longest. Now I focused and used my energy to manipulate the atoms of the universe and open a conduit to Earth. But, like before, all I got was a pinprick of a circle. If I pressed my eye up against it, I might be able to see to the other side. This comes easy to you, doesn't it? Barakiel said from my shoulder, startling me. I can't get it to open more, I said, turning my body to face him while keeping my eyes on my pinprick. Most angels struggle to open the conduit at all. I'm impressed with your ability. I've been pulling energy from the universe as long as I can remember, I admitted. But this weakens me. Even pulling my own strength, I can't open it. You don't need more energy, you need willpower. Willpower? I blinked, my arms trembling. I couldn't hold this much longer. This is a new concept for you, I know, but in the higher realms, we value a stubborn spirit. We value the ability to endure simply because you don't want to quit. I dropped my arms, no longer able to maintain my pinprick. What are you saying? I'm saying your desire to open that window, your mind, is what will make it get bigger. Your energy level will wane and wax and not always be the same, but your willpower will make it happen. Oh, I looked back at my fading pinprick, the energy swirling back into the universe. How do I make that happen? Find what motivates you, find what you want, and go after it. Cling to it and don't give up until you get it. He smiled at me. Why don't you take a break, let your energy recoup? I nodded and kept my eyes focused on the spot where the pinprick had been. In the context of our conversation, my first thought was of Malik, how I wanted to see him, as if seeing him could make it so he were here, near me. But beyond that, my mind latched on to the thing I wanted most, to go to Earth and get a body, to evolve to the same plane as these angels, to have the same spiritual material and be able to touch. It was impossible, wasn't it? If I wanted it bad enough, could I make it happen? My mind resonated with the thought, and I felt myself yearning for it. If there was a way, I would find it.